If it's Saturday night, it is Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. Hello, friends. Anthony Fleur here with you once again for another edition of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. Derek Ferrer will not be joining us. I have no idea what's going on with him, so I'm guessing he's not going to be with us. Michael Bullock running late. I'm sure he'll be joining us at some point. But hey, I got Michael Fletcher here. That's great. I'm glad he's here with us. First time this season, so glad that worked out. So yeah, as soon as Michael Bullock joins us, we'll get him caught up on all the happenings there. So yeah, week 3 of the NFL season already. I mean, my goodness, how time flies. But 15 games on the schedule here, as well as our newest power rankings. So that's all there is to say on that. So all right, let's start it off with our first game. It's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Bengals coming in with a 2-0 record. The Ravens at 0-2. Of course, the Bengals are the favorites, I do believe. Just want to make sure I'm reading this right. Actually, I think it's the Ravens that are the favorites, so 1-3. So
According to this, I got it says Baltimore is the favorite by 1 point.
yeah, 1-3. It varies from 1-3 on my end, Fletch. That's what I have. So yeah, CBS will have it, obviously, seeing that it is an AFC game, and I'm just trying to see who's due to be on the call for that one. Just bear with me for a moment. A little slow on my end. What else is new? Let's see. Cincy and Baltimore. Okay. Andrew Catalan, Steve Berline, Steve Tasker, they will have the call on CBS. So yeah. Of course, you definitely have to consider this a must-win for the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, considering that they are 0-2 and coming off of a loss to the Raiders. Ouch. I mean, I never thought in my wildest dreams I would ever see the Ravens lose to the Raiders. I mean, my goodness. I mean, that's humiliating beyond words. But don't worry, there's gonna be plenty more of that later on. Trust me. Speaking of humiliating losses, but nonetheless, though, I do believe yes, Baltimore does lead the all-time series 20-18, according to my notes here. Matter of fact, actually, I was looking at it's 20-18 in favor of Baltimore. And matter of fact, Cincinnati's won the last 3 meetings in this series. Baltimore last won in 2013. That was in Baltimore, which is where the game is. Last year, Cincinnati swept the series. Cincy winning both at home and in Baltimore. So yeah, 23-16, Cincinnati beat Baltimore, and the Ravens last won there the year before in 2013. So that's that. Like I said, big time must win for the Baltimore Ravens at home. This is their first home game because they were on the road the first 2 weeks, and both tough luck losses. Week 1, you remember they were defeated by Denver in a defensive battle, and then they lose in a shootout to the Raiders. I still cannot believe I'm saying that, but it is true. And then from there, Cincinnati, of course, with their 2-0 by virtue of victories over. I know Cincinnati beat San Diego at home last week, and then they went on the road. I believe they picked up a road win in week 1. Yeah, Andy Dalton and company looking for another victory, and of course Flacco definitely. So this is a tough one to call. It really is. I mean, you would because of the records, you would have to think Cincinnati would be the favorite based on that. But remember, Cincinnati is the favorite in this game, 1-3 point favorites. So and since he has won the last 3 meetings in this series, but Baltimore is a very desperate team right now. I mean, this was a pick by many to not only go to the Super Bowl but also win it. I mean, a great sports blog that I read, BFlow 360. I mean, he even had the Baltimore Ravens winning the Super Bowl this year. So I don't think he's looking too good. He's not looking too good right now. he's got some egg on his face. Trust me. So, but nonetheless, I mean, it should be. It's always interesting when these two get together. I mean, it's an AFC North rivalry. You know how intense and smash mouth and physical these rivalries get. And yeah, and even though Cincy, in my eyes, is the favorite, I got this feeling Baltimore is going to bounce back, especially with them being at home. This is their first home game, and they rarely lose at home anyway. So I'm going to take a chance here, and I'm going to go with the Ravens to win this one. I mean, I know Terrell Suggs is done for the year. I get it. But they still got Joe Flacco, and they still got Steve Smith Sr., and then, of course, Cincinnati, of course, Andy Dalton and A.J. Green and Jeremy Hill and Tyler Eifert and all of them. But at the end of the day, though, Fletch, I got to go with the Ravens at home. I mean, especially with this being their home opener, you got to go with them. So I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win this game. I'm going to say the final score is going to be 20-17. So that's all there is to say on that. So 20-17, the Cincinnati Bengals will, or I should say, the Baltimore Ravens will defeat the Baltimore Ravens will defeat the Cincinnati Bengals in this home opener. So 20-17, I got Baltimore. So with that said, Michael Fletta, Cincy and Baltimore, it's usually a game that we would do, but I know it's not on our radar this time around. So let's get your thoughts on Cincy and Baltimore anyway.
All right. Well, first off, hello everybody. Basically, what you've been saying, Anthony, was it's really a tough situation going down right now with Baltimore. But here's the problem: Cincinnati has an established running attack and a very good passing game, and their defense have been ferocious up to this point, only surrendering 16 points per game, and so far has only allowed 319 yards, 222 through the air in the first two games that they've won. A keynote in this game is that Andrew Wentworth and A.J. Green are both probable for the game. However, probable means they're about a 75% chance of playing. So take it for what it's worth. They're probably going to play. Rashard Perryman is out for Baltimore, and Lorenzo Trufant is actually questionable with an injury going into their game. Yes, Baltimore is a 1-point favorite going in, but when it's that close of a margin, I don't really rely on that too much. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a very good game. However, I disagree with you, Anthony. I'm going with Cincinnati. I believe they will go 3-0 after they do win this game. I think Giovanni Bernard, and then we got Tyler Eifert. If A.J. Green is near 100%, he's going to have a big game. Andy Dalton has been very consistent so far. 483 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Flacco has been very inconsistent so far with 2 touchdowns and 3 INTs already 2 games into the season. So I believe they will get the job done. They will win this. And I do believe, once again, I got Cincinnati winning this one. It's going to be close, but I do have them winning it 27-21 in Baltimore. I think they're going to go 4 in a row. Let's move on.
3 in a row, actually, but nonetheless, we're going to move on. Next game we're going to talk about, and Fletch will start it off. We're going to switch over to the NFC now. The New Orleans Saints going up against the Carolina Panthers. This game will be in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium. Of course, for Baltimore, that's M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, just for those of you scoring at home. Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, that's where we're going to be as the Panthers host the New Orleans Saints. Fox will have the game, of course, seeing that it's an NFC game. Chris Myers, Rondé Barber, Jennifer Hale will have the call. Carolina, a solid favorite here, as they are a 9.5 to 10.5 point favorite. And according to the series history, Fletch, before I throw it to you, series history, Carolina leads the all-time series 21-19. Each of the last 2 years they've split. Only difference was in 2013, they split at home. Both teams won on their respective home fields. But last year, it was the other way, as both teams won on the road. New Orleans won in Charlotte and Carolina won in New Orleans. So So now that you're all caught up, Michael Fletcher, New Orleans and Carolina, who you got?
I gotta go with Carolina. The big news coming out of this game, I don't know if you've heard, and many of you may have heard, may not have heard. Drew Brees is out. He's out with a shoulder injury. He will not play in this game. That basically turns this game on its head. Basically, with Drew Brees sitting out, with Brandon Cook probable in this game. Of course, there is some injuries for Carolina. Jonathan Stewart is 50-50 right now. He's actually he did suffer an injury. He's 50-50. Luke Kuechly might not play. He's actually doubtful. So chances are if he might not go. And that's a major blow to the defense of Carolina. And then on top of that, Jericho Cotchery, one of the wide receivers for Carolina, is out. He will not play tomorrow either. That's the full injury report. But Carolina is a very, very good defensive team. Normally, when you talk about the Saints, you're talking about high-powered offense and everything else. Guys, Anthony, so far this season, they've only averaged 19 points per game. So they're not really giving us that oomph like we see in recent years. And with the injuries, with everything that has just played out, I gotta go Carolina Panthers. I don't see how the Saints can recover from that. That's such a big loss, especially Drew Brees is really the heart and soul of that team now. You know, there isn't really that many big weapons that you can work with now. You got Mark Ingram. He might be one of your saving graces, but what going into this, if Brees would have been healthy, I think this would have been a more closer game. Now that we know Brees is out, I don't think this is going to be close at all. I think this is at least a 2-touchdown margin. I'm going to say at least 28-14. I got Carolina winning this game. Anthony, it's yours.
Major cause for concern in New Orleans, indeed. There's no doubt about that. I mean, well, the minute they traded Jimmy Graham to Seattle, that's when they were doomed right there. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Jimmy Graham was such a vital part of that offense, and you wonder why they're averaging only 19 a game, like Flex said. Yeah, it's because of the fact that they got rid of Jimmy Graham. Stupid move, if I'm being quite honest with you. And now you got Drew Brees, your franchise quarterback, out with an injury, and now you got McCown starting. Oh yeah, that Carolina defense is gonna feast on New Orleans. That is no doubt about that. McCown's gonna get flustered. The running game with Ingram's gonna get flustered. So much more. So for all you fantasy owners out there, if you have the Carolina defense like I do, I strongly recommend you start them, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, this is not even going to be close. I mean, like Fletch said, I mean, Carolina's going to win this thing going away. This is one of the locks of the week for me. 27-10, that's going to be my final score. As Cam Newton's going to go off. Hoping Jonathan Stewart goes off. Greg Olsen, and that's pretty much it. So give me Carolina 27-10. Simple as that. So, all right. As we continue on here on NFL Saturday, our next matchup, we're going to have, we're going back to the AFC, as it's going to be the Oakland Raiders going up against the Cleveland Browns. This game will be, like I said, on CBS. And let me see who's on the call for this one. It is going to be, just give me a moment here. Yes, Carter Blackburn and Chris Sims, they're going to have the call for CBS. So, and let me check my notes here as far as who's the favorite here. I mean, I would imagine Cleveland would be the favorite in this one. And they are. Cleveland is the favorite. They are 3 to 3.5 point favorites. So, okay. Yes, sorry. Yep, it's me now. So just got a message from Michael Bullock. It's nothing. I asked him to message me when he was coming in. He said, "Will do," and that's it. So, but don't worry. I'm sure he'll be with us soon enough. So, so Raiders and Browns. I mean, a lot of history here. I mean, let's just face it. I mean, the Browns coming. I mean, both teams coming off impressive wins. I mean, Cleveland at home against Tennessee, who, as you know, the week before roughed up Tampa Bay, as everybody remembers. Johnny Football was the difference in this one. He played very solidly, and then whereas the Oakland Raiders coming off one of their biggest wins that I can recall. I mean, I can't remember the last time they won a game of that magnitude. You know, beating a very good team in Baltimore, and they did just that. I mean, they got a last-second win against them. So behind Derek Carr, and Derek Carr, you know, but then again, both him and Flacco were really good. So Browns and Raiders history, the all-time series. The Oakland Raiders lead the regular season series 11-10. We don't count playoffs because we're not talking playoffs. We're talking regular season only. It's 11-10 in favor of Oakland. And however, Cleveland has won the last two meetings, including last year in Cleveland, where the Browns won 23-13. Last time the Raiders won in Cleveland, you got to go all the way back to really 1985. Wow, 1985, the last time the Raiders won in Cleveland. So it was a 21-20 win there. So yes. Let me see. Yep, 11-10 in favor of the Cleveland Browns. So this is another tough one. I mean, this one can go either way. I mean, you know, the Raiders coming off that big win last week against Baltimore, and you know, but here's the difference though. Johnny Manziel will not be playing because he's going to be he got benched in favor of Josh McCown because Josh McCown is back from his concussion that he suffered in the opening week against the Jets. So so this is a tough one. I think in the pick'em, I think I have Cleveland winning this game. I do believe, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to win this game because, you know, they've been doing really well at home as of late. So I think McCown will have a solid game, and there's something about the Raiders on the road. I mean, I just can't really trust that as far as I can throw them. So, I mean, would I be surprised if Oakland won? No, I wouldn't. But at the end of the day, though, I just got to go with Cleveland because I think they're catching fire right now. And who knows, with McCown there, we'll see what happens. But for right now, I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to go with the Browns to win that one. So I'll go I think it might be a little more higher scoring than people think. So I'm gonna go 27-24 in favor of Cleveland as they'll get their second win in a row. So so with that said, Michael Fletcher, your thoughts on yes. So Michael Fletcher's let's get Michael Fletcher's thoughts now on Oakland and Cleveland. I got Cleveland 27-24. How about you, Fletcher?
It's kind of a tough situation because of the fact that, like you said, they did bench Johnny Manziel, and for once, it wasn't because of bad play. I mean, he had a very good game last Sunday. It was actually one of the best games he's had as a professional. It's just that, like you said, McCown is back from his recent concussion. He did pass the concussion protocol test, so now he is eligible to play, and they feel like he has the hot hand. I don't know if that's the right move, though, because of the way that the Raiders played and the way they won the game, and I kind of feel like I think this was a mistake. I think they should have gone with the hot hand, which was Johnny Manziel. Travis Benjamin had a ridiculous game last Sunday. I don't think he's going to have a big game this week. I think we're going to see something big from Amari Cooper. I think we're going to see something from David Carr. I think we're going to see something from Louis Murphy. I'm actually going to go with the Raider Nation. I'm going to go with the Raiders to pull off the win. I think they're going to win this game. Not a close game. I think this will be a close game, but not as high as you think, Anthony. I got it a little more defensively, something in the neighborhood of 17-14, but I do have the Raiders winning. So for the first time tonight, we disagree.
Well, yeah, I guess we do. So so with that said, we're just going to move on to our next matchup. Back to the NFC, and it's a pretty big one here. we got the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. This game was going to be on Fox, and the big crew is going to be there. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews, they're going to be on hand for that one. So check your local listings for that. We will not be getting that game in our area. Atlanta, a 1 to 2 point favorite, although one of my spreads has this game as a pick'em game, but the other spreads favor Atlanta between 1 to 2. So series history favors the Dallas Cowboys. 14-9 is the regular season series history, and last time they met was 2012. That was in Atlanta. Falcons won that in 1913. The last meeting in Dallas was 2009. Cowboys won that 37-21, and last time Atlanta won in Dallas, got to go back to 2003. It was a 27-13 Atlanta win. So with that said, Michael Fletcher, Atlanta and Dallas, both teams coming in at 2-0, and the big crew's going to be there for Fox, the Buck and Aikman crew. So what are your thoughts on this big matchup?
This is a big game in Jerry World, but I really feel this could be Atlanta's game. No Tony Romo, no Dez Bryant, and they might not even have Jason Witten going tomorrow. Jason Witten on the injury report and is listed as probable right now. So, I mean, that's 3 major weapons already lost for the Dallas Cowboys. However, a silver lining for the Cowboys, you don't have to deal with Devin Hester. Hester is out. Tavon Coleman out. Brooks Reed, who's a linebacker on the defensive end, he's out. Julio Jones is actually probable for this game, and Roddy White is also probable for this game as well. So there's a lot of big injuries in there, but I don't know what to expect because of the fact that this is the first game for Dallas without Tony Romo, and that's going to be the major factor of this game. How is Dallas going to react offensively? Defensively, they've been pretty good. You know, they've been a bend, not break. But Brandon Weeden is getting the start. You know, what's he going to bring to the table? That means these guys are really going to have to step up. Terrence Williams is going to have to step up. Joseph Randle is going to have to step up. And that's really my feeling about this game. And that's really going to be the factor. You know, Matt Ryan, Matty Ice has been amazing this entire season. And so far, I mean, if it wasn't for a couple of here and there, I mean, this guy has been unbelievable what he has dealt with already this season alone. You know, Dakota Freeman will start for Tevin Coleman because he actually fractured a rib and did not practice all week. So that's why he's out. As far as the running game goes, I hate to say this, but Atlanta doesn't have a running game. They're throw, because right now their running game it averages only 2.82 yards. That's third worst in all of the NFL. So basically, the way I see about this game, I gotta go with Atlanta because I just feel like better defense and a more all-around team. Because remember, you don't got some big weapons in Dallas, and as much as Brandon Weeden is going in, this is like throwing him into the lion's den. You're going up against a pretty decent defense right now that Atlanta has, and I'll even go one further with that with my theory, Anthony. And you know I'm a defensive guru about this. So far up to this point, Atlanta has only surrendered 20 points per game, and they're basically offensively they actually average. You know, the one thing that they are really bad at is they get exposed through the air. If Weeden goes for the deep balls, they might be able to do it because the secondary is not that great. You try to run on this team, they only given up 80 yards rushing in 2 games. I mean, you can do the math how this will play out. You can't run it. You're going to have to throw it. And Weeden's not the best thrower. I'm sorry. I would have preferred Tony Romo over Brandon Weeden in this. hell, I'll even say Matt Castle probably is better in this situation than Brandon Whedon. I'm sorry, I gotta go with Atlanta. There's too many variables that makes me want to believe that he will play, that Atlanta will win this game. So I believe Atlanta will go 3-0. I think Dallas will lose their first game of the season in Jerry World. My final score is 30-17. I got Atlanta winning. Anthony, it's all yours.
Yeah, hard times for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, Tony Romo getting injured against Philadelphia last week, and then of course Bryant going down against the Giants the week before with his foot. Breaks his foot. He's going to be out indefinitely. Same thing with Romo. Hurt his clavicle. He's out indefinitely. Witten may not be going. So your hopes are resting on Brandon Whedon, Joseph Randle, and Terrence Williams. Yikes. Okay. But Dallas did win. You know, they won that game against Philadelphia. And Flex, let me just say it like this. That game against Philly, that Dallas-Philly game last week, brutal. Let me just say it like that. I mean, I could not wait for that thing to be over.
I think the fan on Facebook who went on that epic 5-star pipe bomb rant pretty much said it for all of us in that game last week about how bad Philadelphia played.
Yeah, and we'll get into Philly later, trust me. But nonetheless, Dallas won that. But that game was just so, man, that was a snoozer. Trust me, that was a snoozer. But nonetheless, though, Atlanta 2-0. You know, with last-second wins against Philadelphia on the Monday night, and then of course last week against the Giants, and now they're on the road for the second week in a row. First trip to Dallas in a few years, so here we are. I got Atlanta too. There's no doubt about this one. I mean, I think Matt Ryan's gonna have a. I think he's gonna have a big game. Same thing with Julio Jones and Roddy White. And I think the defense will definitely feast all over Brandon Whedon, and they'll frustrate Randall, and they'll keep Williams in check, along with Escobar and Beasley. I mean, those are your other go-to guys as well. So I got Atlanta winning this one as well. I'm gonna meet you a little more halfway, Fletch. I'm actually gonna go a little. It's right around that same score, but I'm gonna go a little higher. I'm gonna say 34-17 in favor of the Atlanta Falcons over the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. So, okay, moving on to our next matchup. It's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Houston Texans. This game will be on Fox, and because remember, it's NFC at AFC, so that constitutes as a Fox game. Kenny Albert, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Holly Saunders are going to be on the call for this game in Houston. So, NRG Stadium, formerly Reliant, is where we're going to be. And the odds are favoring I believe they're favoring Houston in this game, a 6.5 to 7 point spread in favor of the Houston Texans. So yeah, let's take a look. Tampa Bay, of course, we all remember in week 1 they got smoked by Tennessee at home, but then last week they go into New Orleans and they get a big win against the Saints, humongous win. Jameis Winston actually looked good, but they did lose their very good, their very dynamic young tight end Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who have been putting up some very good numbers the first 2 weeks. He's gone. He's going to be out indefinitely. He suffered a severe injury in that win over in New Orleans. And Houston, I believe they're 0-2. They lose at home to Kansas City in week 1, and then last week they lose in Charlotte against Carolina. So this is another tough one. But I like Houston in this one. I mean, I think for some odd reason I think Houston's going to win this one. I don't know why, but I got Mallett. I think Mallett's going to have a solid game, and who knows? Maybe the running game with Alfred Blue, maybe that can get going again because Arian Foster's still out. But this is going to be a sloppy game, if I'm being honest with you. And I really, I'm kind of glad we're not getting this game, to be honest, because this would have been another tough one to watch. But and before I throw it to you, Fletch, series history favors Houston 2-1. Matter of fact, Houston's won the last 2 meetings. They last met 2011 in Tampa Bay. Houston won that 37-9. The only time they met in Houston was 2007. Houston won that 28-14, and their first ever meeting was in 2003. Tampa Bay won at home 16-3. So this is in Houston now, and this is like I said, this is a very tough one to call. But at the end, though, even though I think Winston's gonna have a solid game, and maybe Vincent Jackson as well, I just like Houston in this one. I just think J.J. Watt's gonna. I think this is gonna be a coming out game for him. So I'm gonna go with Houston. I think Houston's got what it takes to win this one. It's gonna be a low scoring affair, I think. I'm gonna go 17-10 in favor of Houston. So give me the Texans 17-10. It's gonna be a sloppy game, I think, between two average and mediocre teams. So I feel bad for those of you who have to actually watch this game. So Michael Fletcher, Tampa Bay and Houston. What do you think?
Yeah, if you actually look at the map at the 506 in the 506sports.com, and that's the game that you were talking about with the Houston and Tampa. Actually, it's only a small portion of the Houston fan base and almost all of Florida. At least a little bit of Florida. They're gonna unfortunately be stuck with the Tampa game. Basically because of the range and everything that's going on. So yeah, that's going to be their game. That's going to be what they're going to be doing tomorrow, no doubt about it. As far as it goes, and as far as we believe or our prediction or whatever we feel is going to be the ultimate play out. Look, I understand why a lot of people has some very good hopes for the Houston Texans. But the problem was, what was the one question that they had the whole time? What was going to be the reaction of the quarterback situation? You had a quarterback, you had Ryan Mallett 1 week, and then they decided to change it up, go with another quarterback for the next game out. So the Texans really are kind of, I don't want to say in a disarray, but they are. I mean, let's be realistic. 2 games in, they've lost them both pretty close. I mean, they weren't bad blowouts. They weren't bad losses. I mean, the first game they did lose to Kansas City, and then right behind that, then they lost the next game. And now it looks like Brian Hoyer is now the man, and he actually got listed as the starter for the game. But here's the other problem that we have. Brian Hoyer is going in. Still no Adrian Foster. DeAndre Hopkins is definitely now a question mark. He's questionable to play. And there's really nobody behind him. This is where Demetrius Johnson's going to have to really step up, wide receiver-wise. And then you got Cecil Shorts, the third. He's going to have to step up. And the question now becomes is how are they going to react and how they're going to play, offensively, defensively. Well, defensively, you got J.J. Watt. I mean, what is it to say? J.J. Watt is right now probably the best guy out there. There's no major injuries on them, so they're all going to be healthy. You got Watt. You got Vince Wilfork from the New England Patriots. You got Brian Cushing. I mean, he's a good player too. So I believe they can play. It just depends on what Tampa does. Tampa has always been a feast or famine type thing. 1 week we saw what happened to Jameis Winston. He wasn't famous Jameis at all. Had a bad game in the first game against Tennessee. But now he turned around, had a consistent, good performance last week. And, hey, they won. Give credit where credit's due. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just who's going to step up in the key moments, who's going to rise to the occasion. And I don't know. I kind of want to say Houston, but it's one of those where my heart and my head is basically pulling me here. My heart is telling me go with the Houston Texans, but my head is telling me, go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa did win last week. They did play pretty good. And then, you got Doug Martin, you got the running back, you have the tight end, Austin Shepard-Jennings, and actually he's listed questionable, Anthony. He's not officially out yet, but Major Wright is definitely out. Gerald McCoy, who's the defensive tackle, he's questionable. Mike Evans probable. So I mean, there's enough depth there where maybe they pull an upset or two. I don't know. But if the thing is that if they keep playing the way they play, who knows how this plays out? But I don't know. I don't trust it. I don't have a good feeling about it. And, you know, I got to go with the Texans. I'm going with my heart instead of my head. I got to go with Houston. I think it's going to be close, but I truly believe that Jameis should have a good game. I just don't know if it's going to be the best game out there. I got the Texans winning very close, somewhere in like a 17-13 type game. It's not going to be the best game. I think it's going to be pretty sloppy. This might be one of those where you just might want to take a nap, more or less. So, Anthony, let's move on. Next game.
All right. Just navigating my way through a lot of windows here. We're back on the AFC side of things. Well, it's another inter-conference game, but this is going to be on CBS since it's AFC and NFC this time around. It's going to be the San Diego Chargers going up against the Minnesota Vikings. That's going to be at TCF Bank Stadium, of course, the University of Minnesota, which is where the Vikings are going to be playing for the second year in a row. Of course, I believe next year is when they open up that beautiful new stadium of theirs down there in Minneapolis. So series history favors the San Diego Chargers 6-5. Last meeting was in San Diego in 2011. San Diego won it 24-17. Last meeting in Minnesota, it was in 2007. Minnesota won that 35-17. And in that game, Michael Fletcher, that's the game when Adrian Peterson made history. When he set the single game rushing record, he had 296 yards rushing in that win. So that's the last time we saw that in Minnesota. Of course, the last time San Diego won in Minnesota, got to go all the way back to 1993. San Diego won that 30-17 in the old Metrodome. So, so there's the series history on that. Game's on CBS, like I mentioned, and calling the game for CBS is going to be Iron Eagle, Dan Fouts, and Evan Washburn. And the odds are favoring, I believe, San Diego between 1 to 2 points is the spread. So, so with that said, Michael Fletcher, San Diego against Minnesota. Both teams 1-1. Who do you like in this one?
Actually, on one of my with the site that I'm working off of ESPN, they actually had the Minnesota Vikings a 1-point favorite going in. So, you know, just to give you a little bit of a heads up on that. And now, here we go. This is where, you know, Minnesota has had a couple of good moments, a couple of bad moments. You know, they won their first game. You know, actually, let me stand corrected here. Let me make sure that I got what I need to get. They actually won their last game, which was over the Detroit Lions, 26-16, after getting absolutely trounced in the first game and beaten up by the final score of 20-3 on the Monday Night Football game. So, I mean, let's just say it's been one of those situations where you're just like, okay, what do you see from this game? I think what we're going to see is a very good team. I think it's going to be a well-balanced attack. The injury report is basically Jacoby Jones is out for San Diego. Ladarius Green is questionable. There are no injuries for Minnesota. They're all clean. They're all good to go. That's actually a good thing, too. Points per game, San Diego scores 26 points. Minnesota has only scored about 14.5. Points given up, 26 points for San Diego, 18 for Minnesota. More consistent defense. Yards-wise, basically, yards given up or defensively, 352 to 359 is almost even. But here's the thing. San Diego can be run on. They've only given up 230 yards passing. Think about that. That means they've given up over 100 yards rushing. And when you got Adrian Peterson, who's found the fountain of youth already, has already 165 yards rushing after the great game he had last week. I'm sorry, Anthony. I totally gotta believe that Minnesota is gonna win this game. And plus, here's another factor. Whenever a West Coast team has to come east, Normally, that East Coast team goes on to win that game. And remember, because of the fact this is a 1 o'clock kickoff, this is a 10 a.m. start for San Diego players. I don't think they're going to be adjusted well enough in time for that. I got Minnesota winning the game in Minnesota. Final score 21-14. Vikings win. Anthony, go.
Yeah, another very tough game to call indeed. I mean, Minnesota, we all remember that in week one, how brutal they were against San Francisco. I mean, when the Niners just absolutely whooped them. And then last week, they bounced back very nicely with a win against the Lions. And then San Diego, they had that come from behind effort, I should say, against the very same Lions in week one. And then last week, of course, that tough loss in Cincinnati against the Bengals. So 1-1, both teams are. And I mean, I know where Fletch is coming from as far as Minnesota is concerned. I mean, I can certainly understand. I mean, West Coast teams going over to the East Coast usually don't fare so well. But I got this feeling about the Chargers. I know Bridgewater's been playing good. I know AP's probably going to get back on the mends and whatnot. But I'm sorry, Fletch. I got to respectfully disagree with you. I like San Diego in this one. I mean, I think Phillip Rivers is going to have another big game. I really do. And I think Keenan Allen's going to have another massive game too. And that's pretty much all I can say. I think the defense will definitely get to Bridgewater a little bit. So respectfully, I have to disagree with you on this one. I got to go with San Diego in this game. I will go 28-21. That's going to be my final score. 28-21. The San Diego Chargers go into Minnesota and beat the Vikings. So that's just how I feel about it. So, okay. Moving on to our next game here. And let me see who we have. Looks like we got the lock of the week here, folks. The Jacksonville Jaguars against the New England Patriots. Gillette Stadium, Foxborough. You know where it is. Kevin Harlan and Rich Gannon will be calling the game on CBS. And unfortunately, Michael Fletcher, we are unfortunately going to have to deal with it. Because it is the Patriots. We're going to have to put up with it. So, of course, no team is favored more this week than the New England Patriots are. To the tune of 13.5 to 14-point favorites are the New England Patriots. And I also do believe they lead the all-time series with Jacksonville. So just give me a moment to confirm that. Pretty sure it is in favor of New England here. Yes. As a matter of fact, New England is 6-0 against Jacksonville in the regular season. Jacksonville's only beat them once, and that was in that AFC wildcard game in January of '99. That's the only time Jacksonville has ever defeated the New England Patriots in a game. I mean, last time they met was 2012. That was in Jacksonville. New England won 23-16, and their last meeting in Foxborough was 2009. New England won that 35-7, and so yeah, and of course, needless to say, Jacksonville has never won in Foxborough. So that's pretty much that's pretty much a given there. So okay, let's see. Of course, New England 2-0, as everybody knows. They beat Pittsburgh on that Thursday night game, and then of course, what a game against Buffalo last week. My goodness, I mean, that was a fun game to watch. I mean, 40-32, New England came out of Ralph Wilson Stadium with the win. Tom Brady has been a man on a mission. I mean, the Tom Brady revenge tour continues. And his newest victim will indeed be the Jacksonville Jaguars, even though the Jacksonville Jaguars are coming off of a win against, I'm trying to figure out who they beat last week. Oh yeah. They beat this guy's team. That's right. They beat Michael Fletcher's team. They beat Eric Carrier's team. But hey, at least they're not letting that get to them. I mean, I know you boys are frustrated. I get you. But I know you boys are going to be ready. Trust me when we get to your Dolphins in a little bit. Oh, are we going to have some fun with that? Boy, howdy. Trust me. But I consider this one of the zonk games of the week, if not the zonk game of the week when it comes to our end, the CBS end. All right, Jacksonville, you may have beaten, you may have beaten Fletcher and Carrier's Dolphins last week, but you really think you're going to beat Derek and Bullock's Patriots in Foxborough? Let me think about that. No, not going to happen. Brady's going off, Gronk's going off, Edelman's going off. That new young running back of theirs, Mr. Lewis. I think he's going to go off. I think the defense is going to feast on Blake Bortles and Trey Mason and all those guys. So, lock of the week, the New England Patriots are going to roll over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Final score on my end, 51-7. It's just that simple. 51-7. The New England Patriots all over the Jacksonville Jaguars in my lock of the week. Michael Fletcher, I know it's your lock of the week, but I want to get your thoughts on the game anyway.
You know what? This is why you got to be very careful with this. Yes, New England's going to win the game, but this is what happened last week. We thought we had this one in the bag. We thought it was going to be an easy victory. We thought we were going to walk all over Jacksonville, and we got our butts handed to us. So, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not falling for the trap. This is a trap game. If New England comes out like they've been playing the last couple of weeks, especially defensively, Jacksonville is going to steal the game. They cannot play like that. Yes, it's going to turn into a trap meet. Blake Bortles has been better than expected. Trust me, I got to see him personally last week. You haven't gotten a chance to see it, Anthony, because you didn't have to deal with the game. I did. So I disagree with everything you just said. Everything you just said. I am not going there. This is the thing you got to know about Jacksonville. Ferocious defense that's going to get right to you. They're going to try to put pressure on Tom Brady. No doubt about that. On top of that, their passing game is actually better than many people expected. And on top of that, Allen absolutely went nuts in the last game. If that secondary of New England, oh, by the way, who's been giving up a whole bunch of yardage in the last few games, and they've been putting themselves in track meets. I mean, when they played against Buffalo, when they played against, so no, I think New England will win, but this isn't going to be this high-scoring blowout. I'm sorry, I disagree with you on this one. I think this is going to be like a 35-24 type game because of the fact is the problem I have with the Patriots is their defense. Their defense has been giving up too many big plays, too much yardage, and they've been getting burned a lot lately in the last few games where the Patriots offense has to basically bail their rear ends out. So I disagree with everything you just said. Even though you may call this the lock of the week, I'm not. I got New England winning, but I disagree with everything you just said. It's not as cut and dry as you think it's going to be. Let's move on.
All right, and we're going to move on to our next game, which is going to feature the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium. And this game's going to be on Fox. Kevin Burkhardt, John Lynch, and Pam Oliver will have the call. And spread, it's a 1.5 to 2.5 point spread. I believe it's in favor of the Jets. I want to say it's in favor of the Jets.
It's a favor of the Jets. The Jets got this.
Yeah, 1.5 to 2.5 is my spread in favor of the Jets, even though all time the Philadelphia Eagles have never lost to the New York Jets. The Jets have never beaten the Eagles in the regular season. Philly is 9-0 all time. Last meeting was 2011 in Philadelphia. Eagles won that 45-19. Last meeting in New York was in 2007. Eagles won that 16-9. So needless to say, at home or in Philadelphia for that matter. So but you know what? They always say there's a first time for everything. And I think this first time is here and now. I really do. I got to go with the Jets in this one because I think Philly is a mess. Philly is a big-time mess right now. I mean, Bradford, I don't think Bradford's going to do much. DeMarco Murray coming off a horrendous performance against his former team. We all thought he was going to stick it to his former team. Well, they stuck it to him big time. I mean, to the tune of negative yardage, people. Negative yardage. I mean, that's not going to get it done. Trust me. And we saw him have a little noggin diva Dinkelberg moment on the sidelines, and rightly so. But, yeah, Philly is just such a mess right now. I mean, they're going through, Jersey Shore, Kardashian drama. You know how much we love that. Yeah, right. Um, Nobody hates that nonsense more than I do. Trust me. Um, but all in all, I just think the Jets are the better team right now. I think Fitzpatrick, my old friend Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think he's going to have a big game. I really do. Chris Ivory, I expect to see some big things from him. Even though I'm sure he's going to be playing, and we'll see about Eric Decker. I know Decker's a little banged up too, and the defense, Darrell Rivas and Antonio Cromartie. I mean, these two have been really shutting down in the corner positions. So yeah. I think the Jets are due for their first ever win against the Philadelphia Eagles all time. So I think they're going to finally get it here. I really do. I'm going with the Jets. I'm going to say the final score is going to be 24-14 in favor of the Jets. So with that said, Michael Fletcher, is it going to be fly, Eagles fly, or are the Jets finally going to get their first ever win against Philly?
No, I don't see I don't see it. I don't see it at all. I mean, you even said it yourself. The way the Jets have been playing absolutely they've been playing so good lately. It's not even funny. The New York Jets has a big time defense, a big game defense, and that is a mark of bad news if you're a New York Jet, if you're a Philadelphia Eagle fan. And plus, Anthony, you said it. The entire Eagles team had only 10 yards rushing against the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. I mean, that's how bad it is, or that's how bad it was. So I'm sorry. I am totally on the side of you. Basically, look at the numbers, offensive comparison, and we're gonna analyze the matchup even deeper. So let's do this. Here's the breakdown. Total yards per game, the Jets had 338 yards to 312 of the Eagles. The passing game, the Eagles are actually better through the air, 278 to 211. Rushing, this is so disparaging. I don't even want to talk about this, but I got to. The Jets averages about 128 yards per game. The Eagles, 35 points per game, 26 to 17. Then defensively, every statistical category is advantage Jets. Their points per game, they've only given up 8.5 points per game in the two games that they played so far. They were both wins. After that, their rushing attack, they've only given up 98 yards per game. Passing, they've only given up 233 yards per game. I'm sorry, Anthony. And then on that, and then on plus, on third down conversions, they've only surrendered. They actually been successful 53% of the time on third down conversions. So I don't know what you want to believe. I don't know what you want to think, and the whole 9 yards. So at the end of the day, I gotta go with the Jets Jets. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick has so far done pretty well. He's held his own. I think Bernard Powell will definitely step up. If Eric Decker does go down and he's not playing, don't worry. They got Brandon Marshall, and it seems like Marshall rises up in those big moments when they need a big game. Sam Bradford's got to step up. I mean, he had a bad situation. He's got to play so much better in this game, or else. I'll just say it like that. Nothing more, nothing less to say. So when it's all said and done, you know what they're gonna be saying? It's gonna be the land of the free and the home of the Jets when it's over. 27-10, New York Jets wins. Let's move on.
And with that, and should they get that win, they're gonna be 3-0. You ever think we'd say that? Wow, just amazing.
And then think about this: they got to play the Miami Dolphins in London next week.
And that might be something we might need to think about that one. Like we may need to think about that one. You know what I mean? So with that said, let's move on to our next game. Um, the Pittsburgh Steelers against the St. Louis Rams. This is definitely one of the more exciting games of the week, finally. Um, this game will be on CBS, the Edward Jones Dome in St. Louis. CBS will have the game for wherever you're located. Greg Gumbel, the great Greg Gumbel, he's going to be on the call along with Trent Green and former Bruins reporter Jamie Erdahl. You may remember that beautiful blonde who used to work with the Boston Bruins a couple of years ago. Yeah, she'll be on the sidelines reporting with Greg Gumbel and Trent Green in St. Louis. So the spread is all over the place, man. I mean, to the tune of 3 pick'ems. Yeah, 3 spreads have it as a pick'em. I have 2 spreads favoring Pittsburgh, one by 1 and the other by 2. And then 1 spread has St. Louis by 1. So this spread is all over the place. So this is definitely a game that can go either way, no doubts. St. Louis leads the all-time series 15-7 with 2 ties. 1939 and 49 were those 2 ties scoring at home. Last meeting was 2011 in Pittsburgh. The Steelers won that 27-0. Last meeting in St. Louis was 2007. Pittsburgh won that 41-24. Last time the Rams won at home against the Steelers, got to go all the way back to '93 when they were the Los Angeles Rams. They won that 27-0 in LA. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is on that. So that's it. And of course, don't forget they also met in a Super Bowl. They met in, I believe it was Super Bowl 14. So this is one of those Super Bowl rematches that they're making a big deal about. So one of those golden Super Bowl rematches, seeing that this is the 50th anniversary of the Super Bowl. So, all right, Michael Fletcher, Pittsburgh and St. Louis, pretty big game here on our end. So, what are you liking this one? It's a tough one to call.
It is definitely a tough game to call because of the fact that, like you said, there's so many factors about this game that you just don't know what to expect. First off, you got Ben Roethlisberger. What a season he's had so far. 720 yards, 4 touchdowns, and I mean Antonio Brown. What a season he's having! Almost MVP type esque. If you really think about it, what he has done. D'Angelo Williams has done very well, but now he gives way to Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell makes his return after being suspended for 2 games after violating not only was it the substance abuse policy, but he also violated the personal conduct policy after getting arrested and having marijuana in possession of marijuana after he got pulled over on a traffic stop. That was actually during the off season. So one of those bonehead moments that he had, and he was suspended for the first 2 games of the season, but now he's back, and I think he's going to come in revving, ready to go, and geared up. And I'll say this, to go up against a St. Louis defense, I'll tell you one thing, this could not be the perfect time to go up against St. Louis's defense when St. Louis gives up 153 yards rushing defensively, and on top of that, they've actually have given up almost 28 points per game so far this season. They did Washington Redskins, and it wasn't even close. They got absolutely trounced last week by the final score of 24-10. And then, of course, everybody knows Pittsburgh with their big victory over the 49ers, 43-18, and how amazing that performance was. I gotta go with the Steelers. I think we're gonna get too much Ben Roethlisberger, too much receiving core, and if Le'Veon Bell starts playing like we know he does, this is gonna be an open and shut case. This is a wrap for me in my eyes. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the Dome, winning this game. Final score, I think this is going to be high scoring, 35-31. Pittsburgh wins. Anthony, go.
Oh yeah, this is definitely one of the games of the week on my end, if I'm being honest with you, because St. Louis, of course, coming off of that big win over Seattle 2 weeks ago, and then that bad loss to the Redskins last week. But Steelers tough loss to New England on the Thursday night, and then coming back and absolutely holiday hamming the San Francisco 49ers, like Fletch said, 43-18. I mean, I'm going to say it like this. I know it's way too early, but right now, when it comes to the NFL MVP race, I think it's a two-horse race between Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady. I really do, based on their bodies of work. Even though I think Brady is slightly ahead, just by a smidge. But nonetheless, Roethlisberger has been just as good. I mean, especially last week after that big game he had against San Fran. I mean, just amazing. And I think he's definitely going to have another pretty sizable game here, as well as Antonio Brown. I think Brown's going to have a big-time game, and Le'Veon Bell back. I mean, that's definitely going to bolster the offense a little more, and that's definitely going to give the Steelers the edge. As far as St. Louis goes, I think Nick Foles will have a solid game as well, and throw in some Todd Gurley there. I also think Tavon Austin's going to be a factor. I think he's going to have a pretty decent game as well, and yeah, definitely a tough one to call, especially in that dome. I mean, you don't know how tough it is to win in that dome, especially during the Greatest Show on Turf days, but we're long past those days now. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh as well. Like Michael Fletcher said, I mean, it's definitely going to be one of those high-scoring affairs. Will it be as high-scoring as Fletch thinks? You know what? I think I'm going to go with that 35-31 too, Flex. I mean, I think you made a compelling argument for that score. So I will say 35-31 in favor of the Pittsburgh Steelers and in the Edward Jones Dome. Should be a fun game. So too bad we're not getting it. I mean, I really would have loved to have seen it, but it is what it is. So all right. Next up, it's our final 1:00 game. It's going to be the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Tennessee Titans. The game's going to be on CBS, and calling the game for CBS is going to be none other than Tom McCarthy and Adam Archuleta. They're going to have it from LP Field in Nashville, and spread favors Indianapolis 3 to 3.5. Can't say I'm surprised with that. All-time series in favor of Indianapolis 27-13. And as a matter of fact, Indianapolis has won the last 7 meetings with these two teams, including sweeping each of the last 3 years. And Tennessee hasn't beaten Indy since 2011, when Tennessee won that game at home 27-10. So there you have it. So let me just say it like this: no team needs to win more than Indianapolis does. I mean, not for nothing, man. They really need this win. I mean, I'll say it like this. If Indy loses this game, oh my God, I don't even want to think about what it's going to be like if this team goes to 0-3. Nobody's going to be more humiliated about that than I am, because for goodness sakes, I picked this team to go to the Super Bowl, for goodness sakes. I mean, because I was very high up on them. I think I may need to retread that. I think I made a major error in judgment on that. But there's no better team for Indianapolis to get back in the win column with than the team that they've owned the last few years, and that's Tennessee. I mean, like I said, they won 7 in a row against Tennessee. So really hoping Andrew Luck has a big game. I'm really hoping for it. I mean, because these first 2, I mean, he had a solid game against Buffalo, but last week he was just absolutely horrendous, throwing 3 picks against the Jets on that Monday night loss. So they really need to turn the corner if they want to still be considered a Super Bowl favorite in the AFC. So I'm expecting Luck to have a big game. I'm hoping Frank Gore will have a big game as well, and Andre Johnson and T.Y. Hilton and Kobe Fleener and Moncrief and Allen as well. And the defense, we'll see if they can get to Mariota and everything else and slow down their running games. So I think the Indianapolis Colts will get back in the win column here, and I say they will win this game against the Tennessee Titans. 27-13, that's going to be my final score. 27-13, Indianapolis gets back in the win column, gets on the board here in 2015, and continues their dominance against the Tennessee Titans. So Michael Fletcher, what do you think? Do you think Indianapolis finally gets off the schneid, or does Tennessee actually, God forbid, make things worse for Indy?
I mean, it can go either way in this game. Definitely, I definitely like the fact that I believe that I think it's going to be a very good game. It's going to be a very exciting game, no doubt about it. Marcus Mariota had a very good first game. He kind of tapered off last week, even though he had 2 touchdowns in the effort. Basically, they have a balanced running attack. And Andrew Luck, I mean, he has not looked so good at all. The one thing is, and the problem that Indy has, and they've always had, was they had very bad defense. Their defense kind of was exposed a lot of times in the 2 games that they've done. Yardage total, they've given up 343 yards, 219 through the air, 124 through the ground, and that's bad because normally Tennessee averages about 145 yards rushing. Um, Basically, when it comes to the way that they play in the game, this is definitely going to be a more tighter matchup, no doubt about it. As far as us looking at, who's going to definitely rise up, uh, either or. I mean, you kind of have to discuss this in a way and think about who would be the one team that you think that's going to win this, or who you think is going to be uh, who definitely can do this. But here's the other thing that you got to think about. If Dick LeBeau can get Andrew Luck under pressure, then I think they definitely have a chance. But the thing is, it's a bad secondary for Tennessee. I think Indy will win it. I don't think it's going to be the most flashiest of victories. I think it's going to be close, but I think Indy will just have enough to get the job done and win the game. So I got the Colts, but it's going to be pretty close. My final score is 21-17. Let's move on.
Now we move on to the 4 o'clock games, and we're going to start it off with the San Francisco 49ers against the Arizona Cardinals, University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale. You know the location. Game's going to be on Fox. Tom Brenneman, Charles Davis, and Tony Siragusa. They're going to have the call for Fox. And series history, the odds. The spread all in favor of Arizona by 6.5 points. That's not really a surprise there. Series history favors San Francisco. They lead the all-time series 29-18. And as a matter of fact, San Francisco has actually done pretty well against Zona lately. I mean, they've actually for the better part of the last 6 years, I mean, they've won like 8 out of the 10 meetings. So, but they did split last year, both teams winning at home. But San Fran has definitely held its own against them. Last year they met in Arizona. Zona won that 23-14. The year before was the last time San Francisco won in Arizona. That was in 2013, 23-20 in favor of the Niners. So with that said, Niners 1-1, Cardinals 2-0. So Michael Fletcher, huge game in the NFC West. San Francisco and Arizona. Who you got?
I got Arizona, and here's the reason why. Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald, Batman and Robin, have been running the NFL for the last couple of weeks. And when you look at that schedule, going 2-0, and the way they've been playing, yeah, there's no doubt about it in my mind. This is an easy call for me. Basically, they've been averaging about 246 yards per game. The only problem that I have with the only problem I have with Arizona is their running attack. I don't think they really have a very good running attack. But when you average about almost 40 points per game, which they have, basically going 48 on the first game and then 31 in the second game, I mean, that is remarkable. And they went up against New Orleans and Chicago and stomped them both. Defensively, I think the Arizona Cardinals have actually one of the best defenses in all of the NFL. They only give up about 21 points per game, and so at the end of the day, I truly believe that Arizona will win it. 3-0, they're gonna go, and this is gonna be a track meet, guys. I just don't see how this can go any more better than this. 42-21, Arizona puts a whooping on the 49ers. I think San Fran goes 0-3 this season. Actually, I think they'll go 1-2 on the season. So that's my prediction. Plus, on top of that, if you look at the next schedule games for both teams, Arizona after this, they got to play St. Louis, Detroit, and then Pittsburgh, where if you're the 49ers, you're not going to like what I'm about to say. You got to play Green Bay next. Yeah. Bye-bye, San Fran. Uh, sweet San Fran. It's not going to be a good game. They're going to lose. 42-21, Anthony, go.
Yeah, San Fran will be 1-2 with the loss should it happen, which I think it will too. I mean, they had that one great game against Minnesota, and then of course Pittsburgh smoked them last week, and now you got Arizona, who is a very sexy pick in the NFC, not just in the NFC West, but also as a possible representative of the NFC in Super Bowl 50. I mean, and why not? I mean, they had that impressive win. They've had two impressive wins against New Orleans and Chicago. I mean, Carson Palmer. Here's another guy that you can figure into the MVP race. I mean, Palmer's been actually putting up some very solid numbers, to say the very least. I mean, I've been very impressed with his body of work. He not only could he be in the MVP running, but he could also definitely be in the Comeback Player of the Year award uh, a discussion if he keeps doing what he's doing. Because last year, he had a very bad injury that sidelined him for the rest of the year, and then their quarterbacking was a major mess, with Lindley, and so let's just say it like this. I mean, I think Carson Palmer is going to have another big game here. I really do, and hey, welcome back, Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, nice to see him back. I mean, it's been forever and a day since we see him have a game like he did last week, over 100 yards and 3 scores in the win against Chicago. So I think he's going to be back on track, as will John Brown and Andre Ellington. So and I think the defense will definitely fluster and get to Colin Kaepernick a few times, and I think they can also get to the running game. So yeah, there's no doubt about this one. I think they're going to slow Hyde down too. So I agree with you, Fletch. I like Arizona in this game as well. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 30. I'm gonna go 30-13 in favor of the Arizona Cardinals over the San Francisco 49ers. So with that said, we move on now to the 425 games, and oh boy, here we go, baby. This is the one I've been waiting for. Strictly Sports Buddy Bowl. You and me, Fletch. The Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, Sun Life Stadium. Looks like it's had some work done from what I've seen. I guess they've had some work done on it, but nonetheless, it's Sun Life Stadium. It's the Bills and the Dolphins. It's my Bills against Fletch's Dolphins. I mean, this is basically another me against the world situation because Fletcher doesn't roll alone in Dolphin Nation. He's got it. Not only does he have Eric Carrier, but he's also got a contingent of his 2184 people that are also Dolphin fans as well. So and family too. So yeah, this is another uphill battle. I mean, I thought I had an uphill battle with Bullock and Derek and all the Patriot folks. I mean, this is just as bad. So yes, Miami is the favorite. I can't say I'm surprised by that. I mean, because it is in Miami after all. 2.5 to 3 is the spread. And calling the game for CBS will be Spiro Dedes and Solomon Wilcots. And we're going to have this game on our local affiliate, WPRI 12. I do believe we're going to have it. Yes, we are. And I already know Miami leads the all-time history. I mean, I already everybody and their mother knows of the history with the Bills and the Dolphins. I mean, it's all about Miami in this one. I just want to make sure I have the correct numbers here. 57-40 with a tie in favor of the Miami Dolphins all time. The one tie was in 1968. That was in Miami, and they split last year. Both teams won at home. Buffalo winning in Buffalo, Miami winning in Miami. Dolphins won 22-9 in Miami. That was on a Thursday night game. And last time Buffalo won in Miami, got to go back just 2 years, 2013. 23-21 was when Buffalo won in Miami last. So, all right. Buffalo, of course, a tough loss to the Patriots last week, which I honestly was not surprised they lost that game. I knew New England was going to win that game because, New England, just like Miami, has owned Buffalo over the years. Trust me, I know. And, of course, Miami, well, we already got into that, so I really don't want to, get Fletch riled up because, we already know how angry and pissed off he was, and rightly so. I mean, I would be too if I lost to a god-awful team like Jacksonville, but I mean, I don't know who was who was more PO'd about it, him or Eric Carrier, because we all know how much you and Eric Carrier can be hotheads at times. Fletch, trust me, I know how volatile you boys get. But nonetheless, this is going to be a smash mouth, hard hitting, physical AFC East matchup. I mean, this is a rivalry, and when it comes to the NFL schedule, I mean, there are 2 games, well, 4 games really, that I circle on the schedule. The 2 games against the Patriots and the 2 games against the Dolphins. These are 4 games that I honestly want to see Buffalo win each and every one. They didn't fare well against New England, rightly so. They dug themselves too big of a hole, even though Buffalo did make a game out of it at the very end. But it was just too much New England, too much Brady, too much Gronk, and Edelman, and all that. I'm expecting Buffalo to have a bounce back game here. I think Tyrod Taylor is going to have a big game here, and I'm hoping that LaShawn McCoy will be good and ready to go. And I'm also hoping the receiving core with Percy Harvin and all of them. I'm hoping and Sammy Watkins. And I'm also hoping for a much better outing from the defense. I mean, that defense got to Andrew Luck and the Colts a couple of weeks ago. I'm hoping they can get to Tannehill and slow down the running game with Miller and all these no-name guys who I have no idea who these guys are. But I'm sure Fletcher will fill me in. It'll be almost like a pseudo Dolphins recap here. So, and Michael Fletcher, I know this might be a little weird what I'm about to ask you, but since we have a Buffalo and Miami game, I'm thinking why don't we make a little Dolphin recap, a joint effort tomorrow night? How about we have a Buffalo and Miami style recap on your end?
I was thinking one better. I don't know how you're going to feel about this. Because I'm not working tomorrow and I'm off, I was at first thinking, first off, it's on. I agree to those terms. Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I'll probably have to tell you something about it behind the scenes, but it's probably not going to happen because I got other things. Because I was thinking about asking you if it would have been cool to head down to your spot and then we could watch the game together. But I just found out that I got some personal family business that I need to tend to, so that's not going to happen now.
Yeah, no worries. So,
the offer was there, or I was going to offer tonight.
Oh yeah, but yeah, no worries. I got family things myself, so there you go. So that worked out. But nonetheless, though, it's going to be a great game here. I expect it to be definitely a highly contested matchup, and I think there will be some Shakespearean drama in this one. And this could be the game that I think this could be the game that you and I do, Fletch, when it comes to our end. I'll get into that behind the scenes and whatnot. But nonetheless, though, Buffalo and Miami. I mean, I have to do it. I got to go with my team. I got to go with Buffalo in this one. I like the Bills in this game. I just think that defense will definitely fluster and frustrate Tannehill. I think they'll slow down the running game with Miller, and they'll keep those guys that I don't know, a lot of these new rookie young boys. I think they'll keep them in check too. So I'm going to go with Buffalo. I like Buffalo in this game. I'm going to say 21-14. The Buffalo Bills beat the Miami Dolphins in Miami. I hope it happens. It would be awesome if it does. I mean, it's not often Buffalo wins in Miami, but damn it to hell, I'll take it if they get it. So give me my Buffalo Bills 21-14. Fletch, I know you're going to disagree with me. I know you're going to go with Miami, and rightly so, like we always do. It's almost always a head-to-head, unless one of our teams is really good and the other one sucks. So, but I know you're going to have Miami in this one. So just elaborate why you have Miami in this one. I already know you're going to go with them.
Here's the thing, and this is one of the reasons why, but I gotta, again, proceed of caution on everything that I say, because I know Dolphin fans are listening to me right now, and they're really pining about what I'm about to say here. So this is gonna be very careful, and I gotta be very careful with what I preface here. Offensively, Miami is really good. Ryan Tannehill has had probably some of the best games that he's had. And I know a lot of people were slamming Tannehill for what happened last week against Jacksonville. If you look at the numbers very carefully, Ryan Tannehill had over 359 yards passing with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 2 times, but it was late in the game. But I blame the offensive line for that because Brendan Albert went down with an injury, and then we lost Jordan Cameron. He had a pulled groin, and there was some other injuries that significant that compounded the problems, and that's why Miami lost. The one thing is that we can't run the football. I don't know what happened to Lamar Miller. I think he went into witness protection. There's an APB out for him. I'm trying to find where's my running back. Where is he? I hope he shows up tomorrow. On top of that, the other problem that I had was defensively. We've been getting our butts kicked on the running game, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Buffalo has a good running attack, so I'm a little concerned about that. So the thing is, what do you do to beat Buffalo? Think about what the Patriots' blueprint was, because the Patriots laid out a blueprint for Miami. Get pressure on Tyrod Taylor, make them make mistakes, make them lose their cool so that they make stupid penalties. Miami has to be consistent. You got to be more aware of what you're doing, and don't make no idiotic mistakes. Olivier Vernon, that stupid 15-yard penalty. I don't even want to get into that because I'll go on a rant for that. But what I can say is it's always a tough game. A divisional game is always tough. Rivalry games are even tougher. So I want to win this game so bad. Like, I don't care about anything else. There's 3 teams I want to beat so bad in the NFL. Buffalo, the Jets, and the Patriots. Because those are our divisional rivals. And if we beat them, I'm happier than a clam. If we lose those games, ooh, I get more bent losing those games than I do with any other game. So I think Miami will win it, but it's gonna be close. I don't think it's gonna be as exciting. It's gonna be exciting down to the wire. I could say maybe something like a 21-17 type game. I think it's gonna be, but I think Miami's just gonna have enough to beat Buffalo. So with that said, let's move on to the last 4 o'clock game.
And you'll be starting it off, Michael Fletcher. And this is a rarity, an NFC game on CBS. The Chicago Bears against the Seattle Seahawks. Qwest Field in Seattle, that's where we're going to be. Or CenturyLink Field, rather. And believe it or not, Jim Nantz, Phil Simms, and Tracy Wolfson, they're going to have the call from Seattle. And I do believe Seattle is the favorite. I wouldn't be surprised if they are. Oh, yeah, they're actually the biggest favorites of the week. 14.5 to 15-point spread in favor of Seattle, as far as the odds are concerned. Series history in favor of Seattle 10-4. Last meeting was in 2012. Seattle won in overtime against Chicago, 23-17 in Chicago. Last meeting in Seattle was 2009. Chicago won that 25-19. But the last time the Seahawks won at home against the Bears was in 2007. 30-23, so a 10-4 all time in favor of Seattle in the regular season. So, so with that said, Michael Fletcher, Chicago and Seattle, rare NFC game on CBS nowadays. So, your thoughts?
Very rare NFC game, no doubt about it. But Seattle got themselves an ace in the hole. Cam Chancellor is coming back. He ended his holdout. He's coming back to the team, and not a moment too soon. The Legion of Boom is reunited. They're going with Jimmy Clausen as quarterback with Matt Forte. There is definitely no major problem here. And plus, Seattle's now at full boat, ready to go. Look out. This could get ugly. This could be beat down. This is my lock of the week. Seattle wins this one, and they win it in a laugher. 35-7. Anthony, go. Nothing more to say.
Oh yeah, not much to say at all. I mean, Cam Chancellor coming back to Seattle, that's a very big deal, considering how much of a noggin of diva and Tinkelberg he was, doing the little holdout there. But that's definitely going to help Seattle's defense because their defense has been absolutely horrific over these first 2 weeks against St. Louis and Green Bay. And that's why they're 0-2, and now they're going to be at home. I believe this will be their first home game because their first two are in St. Louis and Green Bay. They're going to be in front of the 12th man and all that. Yeah. I still haven't heard back from him yet. Yeah, but he could always share his on his page if we need to. So yeah, this is after this we have two more games left. Yeah, so but nonetheless, I got Seattle. I got Seattle in this one. I got Russell Wilson having a big game. Marshawn Lynch, big game. Jimmy Graham, I think he'll finally have that breakout game in Seattle. Even though I know he's been unhappy there, but I think he's gonna have. I think this should be his coming out party for Seattle, and I think that defense is gonna fluster. I mean, I know, and I'm pretty sure Jay Cutler is not going to be playing. I think it's going to be my old friend Jimmy Clausen. So I definitely think he's going to get flustered by that. The Legion of Boom are going to have a field day with Clausen there, and I think they'll also get to Forte and Jeffrey and Bennett. So yeah, I got Seattle in this one. This is another lock of the week. This probably should be the lock of the week if I'm being quite honest with you. Well, this is the lock of the week on the NFC side. I'll put it like that. So give me Seattle in this one. I got Seattle big. 51-3. That's going to be my final score. So I know it's probably too high, but it is what it is. So 51-3, Seattle all over Chicago. So next up, it's going to be Sunday Night Football. The Denver Broncos against the Detroit Lions at Ford Field in Detroit. And the series history favors the Denver Broncos 6-5, even though Detroit actually has won the last two meetings in this series. Last meeting was 2011 in Denver. Detroit won that game 45-10. Last meeting in Detroit was 44-7 in favor of the Lions as well. And the last time the Broncos went into Detroit and won, the Lions were still playing in the Pontiac Silverdome, for goodness sakes. 17-7, Denver won in Detroit back in 1999. So that's the series history on that count. And Denver is the favorite by 3 points across the board. And of course, Sunday Night Football, who's going to be on the call for that. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Michelle Tafoya. So yeah, Denver 2-0. Shaky win against the Ravens in week 1, thanks to the defense. Offense showed up in week 2. Peyton Manning, much better outing than he did in week 1. And then how about the ending of that game? I'll tell you what. Fletch and I, Denver and Kansas City, that was the game. That was our game of the week last week. And man, were we glad it was, wasn't it? I mean, the ending of that game, still fresh in all our minds. Jamal Charles fumbles the ball and then Roby scoops it up and scores for Denver and pulls out a miraculous victory in Arrowhead. What a fantastic game that was. To me, that's the game of the year so far in the NFL in these first 2 weeks. I don't recall any game having more Shakespearean drama than that one. Although the New England Buffalo game last week was just as much Shakespearean drama laden, but this one definitely had a lot more of it. Man, what a game! But Detroit's 0-2. They choked away a big lead against San Diego in week 1, and then they just didn't even show up against Minnesota. And to make matters worse, I heard Stafford's banged up. I don't know if he's going to be good to go. So Abdullah has been slowed down. Megatron's not as good as he once was. So, yeah, I got to go with Denver in this one. I like Denver in this one. I think Peyton Manning's going to have another big game. I think the running game, C.J. Anderson, I think he'll get going. Demaryius Thomas should have a big game. And that's pretty much all there is to say on that. So I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos in this game. 38-24. That's going to be my final score. 38-24. Denver goes into Ford Field and beats up on the Detroit Lions. So they'll go 3-0. Detroit will drop to 0-3. So with that said, Michael Fletcher, Sunday Night Football, Denver and Detroit. Who you got?
Yeah, this is going to be a tough game, to say the very least. Denver is trying to utilize a running attack, trying to be very limited on Peyton Manning and the way that he plays football, or makes all the moves lately. If this is going to be a good battle, there's nothing more to say about that. But like you said, the injury bug has hit Detroit pretty hard, and a very bad running game from Detroit up to this point. Uh, if you see Amir Abdullah, and he was non-existent last week. All fantasy owners were absolutely crying. Uh, Basically, they had that infamous Michael Fletcher "I can't take it" face. I'm not going to put it up tonight, out of respect, but I will say this: I think Denver will win it. It's going to be a good game, but I got Denver at Ford Field. So let's move on.
And our final game of the week, Monday Night Football. The Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field in Green Bay. When it comes to it, Monday Night Football, you know who's going to be there. Mike Tirico, John Gruden, and Lisa Salters, they'll be there. Green Bay, the favorite, 6.5 to 7-point favorites in favor of the Packers. And, of course, when you think about it, this is remember, this is another one of those golden Super Bowl rematches because these two teams met in the very first Super Bowl, Super Bowl I, at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. So yeah, Kansas City leads the all-time series 7-2 with a tie. The one tie was in 1973 in Milwaukee. Last meeting was 2011. Kansas City won that game 19-14 at Arrowhead, and that year. Kansas City was the only team to beat Green Bay in the regular season because Green Bay went 15-1 that year before they lost to the Giants in the divisional round. First meeting at Lambeau since 2003 when Kansas City won that 40-34 in overtime. I'll never forget that game. I mean, what a fun game that was. I mean, that was a lot of Shakespearean drama there. Matter of fact, as I'm looking at this, the Green Bay Packers have never beaten the Kansas City Chiefs at Lambeau. Never. Both times Green Bay won was in Kansas City. So definitely something to think about. So with that said, Michael Fletcher, Monday Night Football, Kansas City and Green Bay. Your thoughts?
If you look at the scale of it and just off the initial thought of it, you're thinking, how does Green Bay not lose this game? Great running attack with Eddie Lacy, the American hero, or the self-proclaimed American hero, dubbed by Anthony Floyo, Aaron Rodgers, James Jones, Randall Cobb, a ferocious defense, and then with Kansas City, you got consistent play, a good running attack with Jamal Charles. But I know some people are like, yeah, but you lost the game on Thursday night with that fumble. Remember, Mike? Yes, I remember. But if you remember as well, he had over 100 yards rushing that night as well. But whatever the case may be, I'm not going to argue with that. You never bet against Green Bay at Lambeau Field. It doesn't matter if it's semi frozen tundra or frozen tundra or warm tundra, whatever. You don't bet against the Packers in Green Bay. Packers win going away 38-21. Anthony, go.
Yeah. Green Bay, of course, at Lambeau. I mean, you know how tough a place it is, how tough it is to win there. Everybody knows that. I mean, should be I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. I mean, Kansas City, they got a solid team down there, and Alex Smith, had that great game against Houston, and then he came back down to earth against Denver, and Charles, of course, with that fumble. So yeah. But I like Green Bay in this one. I definitely agree. I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a big game, no question about it. And Eddie Lacy, big game from him. Randall Cobb, throw in some Devontae Adams and James Jones, who I know is happy as a fiddle to be back there after that disastrous year in Oakland. So, but I do also expect Alex Smith to have a solid game too. Same thing with Jamal Charles and Travis Kelce. So, yes, Flex, I agree with you. I think Green Bay wins, but I think it's going to be closer than you think. I got it 28-24 in favor of Green Bay. at Lambeau Field. So that's pretty much it on that. So now now it's time for our power rankings here on NFL Saturday, and I'll say it like this: my number one is not changing. I mean, my number one, that's going to stay as it is. So yeah, but there will be some changes though, because of some teams losing. For example, I do not have the St. Louis Rams in my power rankings this week. They had that big win against Seattle, but they lost to Washington. I cannot accept that. So they're out. Same can be said for I don't know if I had San Fran in there last week, but I don't have them in there either. And let me see. So they're out. And Tennessee's out as well. I didn't like how Tennessee looked against Cleveland there. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can say on that. So my number one is unchanged. So with that said, I'm going to go into my number 10 in these power rankings, and keep in mind, we have some 1-1 teams, and this is an early season power ranking, so I'm hoping that I don't get ripped on some of these picks. But let me see. As I started off, this is it's very rare I do this, but Michael Fletcher, I'm curious. Do you have your number 10 ready to go? Because I don't really have my number 10
As a matter of fact, I do. I
Okay.
have my number 10. And my number 10 is the New York Jets. Now, the reason why I'm putting the New York Jets at number 10 is because of the fact that, they did beat the Indianapolis Colts and actually manhandled them on Monday Night Football 20-7. And I've been saying how great their defense has been so far, to say the very least. And that's been one of the reasons why they are 2-0 in the division. And they are going up against the Philadelphia Eagles today, because we are past midnight. But the one thing that I would say about the Jets is that, as good as their defense is, there is some problems offensively, defensively, whatever you want to say. They do average 25 points per game, which actually puts them 10th in the league. Their yardage is 338 yards, which puts them 18th in the league. But here's the problem that they have league ranking wise. They're 24th with the pass, and they're ranked 10th in rushing. So that's just offensive numbers. So I really think that they definitely have an opportunity to really do something really good. But they are number one in defense when it comes to points per game by surrendering to 8.5. But they are a little bit of a mystery. Rushing wise, they do give up 98.5 yards, which puts them 14th in the league, and then 17th by surrendering 235 yards. You can get them, if you get them into a high scoring game, then who knows what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, there's 9 other teams that I believe are better. And a majority of them are 2-0. A lot of them are 2-0. So I'm sorry, I had to put the Jets at number 10 because of that. So Anthony, if you're ready, go ahead. You're at number 10.
Well, with all due respect, Fletch, I got to disagree with you on the Jets. I actually have the Jets a little bit higher on my end because I've been very impressed with their body of work, especially with what they did against Indianapolis. So yeah. So I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one. As far as who I have at number 10 in the rankings there, I'm going to start it off with the Atlanta Falcons. I got to go with Atlanta at number 10. They're 2-0. That's why I got to put them in there. Actually, no, I actually got them a little bit higher. I do apologize for that. My number 10 is actually going to be my. I got to go with my team, the Buffalo Bills. I gotta knock them down here. The only reason why they're still in it is because they didn't lose too badly to New England. 40-32, they had that tough loss. but you gotta give them credit, man. I mean, they really fought back. I mean, yeah, they dug themselves a big hole, but man, they made things interesting towards the end. But they coughed it up 3 times. The quarterback was sacked 8 times. Tyrod Taylor was sacked 8 times in the loss, threw 3 picks, and pretty much it was all New England there. But McCoy, Shady McCoy had a solid game with 89 yards, and receiving core needs to get going. Woods and Watkins and Harvin, solid games, but solid's not going to cut it in this league. And Carpenter missed an extra point, but yeah, 8 sacks for New England. I'll get into that when I talk about New England. So because they're going to be in there, obviously. Mario Williams and Jerry Hughes had the sacks of Brady, so that was a plus. I know they probably shouldn't be in these rankings, but I got to be honest with you. I think I still think they should be because because they had that big win against Indy, and then they had that and they didn't lose too badly to New England. I mean, they fought back. They just fought so hard, but it was just too much. So Buffalo is my number 10. So that's it. Moving on to my other number 10. My number 9 rather. I got to go with. I'm dropping another team this week. The Kansas City Chiefs. I'm dropping them down to number 9 this week because they had that loss to Denver. But that was another close loss. I mean, that was a fun game, like we said. I mean. Yeah, so all right, here we go. All right, I got the information. 31-24 loss to Denver after that nice win in Houston. They coughed it up 5 times. I mean, they had 5 turnovers, and also Alex Smith was sacked 5 times. So even though Charles had a great game, 125 yards rushing, Alex Smith was back down to earth through 2 picks, and receiving core was you had 3 50-yard receivers, but other than that, I mean, that's not going to get it done. So Mike DeVito had a sack. Justin Houston had 2 sacks. So Peyton Manning, they did record 3 sacks, so I'll give them that. But nonetheless, though, just too much. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Green Bay, Kansas City. I got Green Bay higher. So Kansas City is my number 9 in the rankings. So with that said, Michael Fletcher, let's have your number 9.
Well, clearly I'm going to disagree with that. My number 9, because I don't have Kansas City, I don't have Buffalo in my rankings at all. My number 9 is actually the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did lose the first game, which was pretty bad. They did rebound nicely with a big-time blowout over the San Francisco 49ers, and that gives them a 1-1 record. And I kind of felt like this is where they deserve to be, after what they did. Definitely in the last couple of games, they definitely looked absolutely phenomenal. They look like the old Steeler team, and if they play like that, oh boy, look out. They're going to be dangerous this year. So I'm sorry. I had to punish Kansas City because of the 5 turnovers, a game where probably they should have won, they lost. And then don't get me wrong, I respect Buffalo. I like what you're talking about, but they dug themselves in too big of a hole, and they actually played so undisciplined in that game. I couldn't in my right mind put them in there. So I'm sorry, I disagree with that. So the way it stands right now, my pick is I got number 9 is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and just to harp off to number 8, this is going to be a little bit of a controversial decision, and I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, but I just decided just to throw it here anyway. My number 8 is the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons, I thought, are 2-0, and yeah, they had a very inspiring victory over the New York Giants, but I mean, let's be realistic here. In the two games that they've played so far, up to this point, they had a very close victory over Philadelphia, another close victory over the Giants, who practically come from behind. So I mean, it's good. Now they gotta play Dallas later today, and then we'll wait. We'll see what happens there. But you know, this was a tough call, but I had to put the Atlanta Falcons at number 8. So Anthony, it's yours.
This is actually where I have the Pittsburgh Steelers, Michael Fletcher. You touched on Pittsburgh. That very impressive game against San Francisco. The beatdown of the Niners by Pittsburgh, and rightly so. They definitely got back on the track after that tough loss against the Patriots. So they go to St. Louis, which I think they'll win. So they put up 453 yards of offense to Pittsburgh, and they forced a Niner turnover. They sacked Colin Kaepernick 5 times, and Roethlisberger 369 and 3 scores. DeAngelo Williams 77 yards rushing and 3 scores, and Antonio Brown 195 yards and a touchdown. Darius Heyward-Bey had a receiving touchdown, as did Heath Miller. So there you have it. So that's where I had Pittsburgh, Fletch, at number 8 in this installment of the Strictly Sports NFL Saturday Power Rankings. So with that said, we're going to move on to number 7 now, and I'll tell you what, every team from here on out that I have in these rankings are all 2-0. I just want to let you know that right here and now, Fletch. So I'm pretty sure you're going to say, yeah, I'm not at all surprised by that. So I have a tie at number 7, and ironically, they're both 2-0 in the NFC South, and they're both the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. That's who I have as my number 7s. So yeah, Atlanta. I mean, they're 2-0. I mean, they had that win against Philadelphia on the Monday night, and then of course another come from behind against the Giants at MetLife, and then they got to go to Dallas today. I think they'll win that. 402 yards of offense, forced a Giant turnover. They sacked Eli Manning twice, and Matt Ryan had 363 yards and a touchdown in the win, no picks. Running game does, however, need to get going, even though Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman each had rushing scores. I mean, they combined for only 57 yards. They got to get that going. Julio Jones, 135 yards receiving. Roddy White, I mean, was non-existent. He had nothing. But Tammy had 77 yards. Hankerson had a receiving touchdown as well. So I think we'll see something out of him. Bryant, was perfect kicking the ball. And the defense with Croy Bierman and Vic Beasley Jr., who had the sacks of Eli in the victory. So yeah, the Atlanta Falcons are my first number 7, and my other number 7 is their division rival, the Carolina Panthers. They're 2-0, even though they had a very shaky win of their own. I mean, they had that win against the Houston Texans, and 24-17, a very shaky win against them. Let me see, 350 yards of offense for Carolina. They forced 1 Houston turnover. They sacked. They got only 1 sack of Ryan Mallett. Newton, 195 yards, 2 TDs and a pick. Newton also had a rushing touchdown. He was the leading rusher for Carolina last week, 76 yards. Stewart had only 62. Receiving core, Greg Olsen had 70 yards, and then receiving touchdowns by Corey Brown and Ted Ginn Jr. in the victory. And the 1 sack was by Dewan Edwards. So good defense, but they just have to get going. And so that's pretty much all I can say on that. So number 7s in the rankings, and I'm pretty sure this is my only tie. Atlanta Falcons and Carolina Panthers. So Michael Fletcher, you're number 7.
Well, obviously, I disagree. Well, I would disagree on one front, but I am going to agree with you on another. I got Carolina standalone at number 7. Basically, I had Atlanta at number 8. As many people now know, So we're just going to move on to the number 6, which I have, which is I put Arizona. I put the Arizona Cardinals here. I thought Cardinals looked really good in their game, their victory last week, and I really believe that they deserve the spot here. They are undefeated as well, and I think they've had a very good season already. And like I said, Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald has been such a 1-2 punch, to say the very least. So my number my number 6 is Arizona. So Anthony, it's yours.
Stand corrected. I have I do have one more tie actually, and it's here at number 6. You have Arizona as one of them. I do believe that is correct. Yeah, Arizona. Well, actually, I got Arizona. I got Arizona a little bit higher because I do have another tie at number 10. So I mean, number 10, number what is it, 7 now? Yeah, 7 or 6 rather. So I do. Let me see. Yeah, my co number 6s, and this is the last tie. I got to go with the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is 2-0. That's the only reason why. But shaky though. I mean, that game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, that was just like I said, so freaking brutal to watch. I mean, not even funny. Um, but they did win 20-10. So, and they are 2-0. So that's the only reason why. They held Philly to 226 yards of offense. They forced 3 turnovers, um, only 1 sack, and but Romo got hurt, and then Whedon, played brilliantly, 7 of 7 for 73 in the score. Running game needs to get going, especially now that you got Randall and McFadden, leading that, and Williams was the leading receiver, 84 yards in the score. Of course, you don't have Witten. Well, Witten might be out, but we'll have to wait and see. And Bailey perfect on the kicking, and Anthony Hitchens was the only one who sacked Sam Bradford last week. So yeah, it was a little shaky for me. So I have to go with Dallas as um, my first number 6, and my other number 6. This was very close, but I have to go with Green Bay because they just barely got by. Well, in the opening week, they barely got by Chicago, and then well, they struggled a bit with Seattle, but they still got it done though. 27-17. That was the final there. So, and I also have to look. I also looked at the body of work from the last game. So remember, these rankings are retroactive to last week. So they forced 2 Seattle turnovers. They sacked Russell Wilson twice, and the offense. Rodgers 249 yards, 2 TDs. Starks had 95 yards rushing. Lacey only had 9 yards rushing, so he needs to get going, no doubt about it. And Randall Cobb 116 yards, and James Jones and Richard Rodgers had receiving touchdowns. And we all thought for the worst when Jordy Nelson went down, but no Jordy Nelson, no problem. I mean, they're 2-0 so far, and Julius Peppers and Mike Daniels had the sacks of Russell Wilson. So Packers get their revenge. So that's pretty much all I can say on that. So cone number 6 is the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. So that said, did you do your number 6, Glenn?
I said Arizona Cardinals was my number 6.
Okay.
We're in the top 5 now.
Yes, top 5. So I believe I started off. So all right. All right, let's see. I don't believe I have any more ties as far as I know. So I think it's going to be standalones for the rest of the way. So yeah. Starting it off at number 5. I'll tell you right now, it's between the Denver Broncos and the Cincinnati Bengals as far as my number 5 is concerned. Just have to think. who do I feel had the better performance and who deserves to go ahead based on the numbers as I look at it. Very close, but I got to go with the Cincinnati Bengals at number 5. 24-19 over San Diego. I mean, they forced 3 San Diego turnovers. They sacked Phillip Rivers 4 times in the game, and Bernard had 123 yards rushing, and Tyler Eifert, Marvin Jones, and AJ Green all had receiving touchdowns in the game, and the defense, like I said, Carlos Dunlap had 1.5 sacks. Atkins had a sack. Gilberry had a sack, and Will Clark, not the baseball player Will Clark, but that Will Clark had half a sack in the game. So yeah, like I said, it was very close. It was between Cincinnati and Denver, but I thought Denver against Kansas City, based on the body of work and the numbers, was just a little better. So my number 5 is the Cincinnati Bengals. So Michael Fletcher, I know you probably disagree with me because we've been disagreeing all over the place. So, but who do you have at number 5 anyway?
I disagree wholeheartedly. I have the Bengals and Denver a little higher. I cannot believe you put Green Bay and Dallas tied at number 6. My mind is blown right now. Dallas is my number 5. Green Bay's in my top 3 this week. Just to give you the heads up on that. Dallas is my number 5. I'm going to give you my number 4. I have Cincinnati here at my number 4. Basically, you said everything, so let's just move on, Anthony, to your number 4.
Okay. My number 4 is the Denver Broncos. Denver's my number 4. Let me see. Denver's my number 4. I thought it was based on the body of work in their last game. Because remember, these are retroactive to week 2. It's because of what they did against Kansas City. Forced 5 turnovers, sacked Alex Smith 5 times. I mean, that's why I had to put them ahead of Cincinnati. And then Peyton Manning, came back, 256 yards, 3 TDs. Yeah, threw a pick, but so what? The only concern, of course, the running game. I mean, they only had 61 yards rushing. That was Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson. But Demaryius Thomas, 116 yards. Emmanuel Sanders had 2 receiving touchdowns, 87 yards. And, 5 sacks, 5 different players. Antonio Smith, DeMarcus Ware, David Bruton Jr., Von Miller, and Malik Jackson. So it was basically based on the body of work from the last game. And I thought Denver's body of work was just a little better than Cincinnati's rather. I mean, 5 turnovers and 5 sacks from the defense. Yeah, I had to do it. So that's pretty much it. So number 4 is the Denver Broncos. So Michael Fletcher, you're number 4.
Yeah, my number 4, I actually gave it to the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought Cincinnati has done really good this season. I just thought their body of work puts them in the top 4, no doubt about it. And I guess we move on to number 3, which I lead off, Anthony.
I believe you do, yes.
Okay, so I lead off at number 3. This is where I have the Denver Broncos. You talked about their big victory over the Kansas City Chiefs, no doubt about it. They just got to get more consistent between the pass and the run. If they do that, I think they'll be fine. They deserve everything that they've done up to this point. No arguments here, at least in my eyes. Denver is number 3. So, Anthony, you're number 3.
My number 3 is the Arizona Cardinals. I got them at number 3. I mean, 2-0, 48-23 beat down on the Chicago Bears, even though Chicago outgained them 335-300. They forced 2 Chicago turnovers. They recorded 2 sacks both on Jimmy Clausen after Jay Cutler went out. Carson Palmer, 4 touchdown passes in the win. David Johnson had a rushing touchdown, but Chris Johnson had 72 yards rushing. The receiving core, like I said, Larry Fitzgerald, welcome back. I mean, he discovered the fountain of youth, 112 yards and 3 touchdowns in the win. Jaron Brown had a receiving touchdown as well, and the sacks were Josh Morrow with a sack and Marcus Golden and Kareem Martin with a half a sack apiece. So just love the body of work of Arizona. I mean, Bruce Arians is doing wonders for that team. So so that's pretty much it on that count. So so my number 3 is the Arizona Cardinals. So so with that said, moving on to my number 2. My number 2 is the New York Jets. I mean, I have to go with the Jets at number. This is where I have them at number 2. I mean, after what they did, Fletch, to the Indianapolis Colts, it was worthy of a number 2 performance. I mean, I can honestly make a case for them to be number 1, but unfortunately, there's a certain team out there that is the number 1 team, and rightly so, dating back to last year. But maybe they didn't have any sacks. But here's the thing, though. They forced 5 turnovers. That defense made life miserable for Andrew Luck. I mean, 3 interceptions, for goodness sakes, and then 2 fumbles on top of that. I mean, based on the body of work, I had to handsomely reward the New York Jets. I mean, they impressed the hell out of me. Anytime you go into Lucas Oil Stadium, a very tough place to win, we should know. And do what they did against a team that good, how can you not put them at number 2? How do you only have them at number 10? They should be number 2, man. Based on that body of work, absolutely. You may not agree with it, but with all due respect, I have to put this team at number 2. I mean, yeah, the running game didn't do much, but Fitzpatrick was great. 244 yards, 2 TDs and a pick. He actually outplayed Andrew Luck. His quarterback rating was 93.3, whereas Mr. Luck's was only 52.8. And Brandon Marshall over 100 yards receiving in a touchdown. Decker had 97 and a touchdown. And yeah, Folk only missed a field goal, but Folk was perfect otherwise. And yeah, 3 interceptions. Darrelle Revis had an interception. Marcus Gilchrist had an interception. And Calvin Pryor had an interception. I mean, that defense, even though they didn't get any sacks, I mean, 3 picks and 2 fumble recoveries, that defense really got to Andrew Luck. And I had never been, I mean, usually I'm always, ripping on the Jets and whatnot and saying, oh, I hate them. And it's true, but their performance against the Indianapolis Colts last Monday night was far and away the most impressive performance by a Jet team I have seen in a very long time. Very long time. Damn, I was impressed. Very, very impressed. I know I'm ranking them way too high. I know I'm overscoring it, but you know what, man? A performance like that, they fully deserve to be number 2. And they're also 2-0. And they also beat up on Cleveland. And now they got Philly coming in. Who knows what they're going to do with Philly? And it's Todd Bowles. It's all about Todd Bowles, man. Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator of the year with Arizona. I think he was the assistant head coach of the year or something like that. I know he had a big honor last year. Todd Bowles has brought – he basically, let me just say it like this. He's teaching his players what Bruce Arians taught him in Arizona. That's all there is to it. And he's bringing that winning philosophy to Gang Green. So watch out for the Jets. If the Jets keep playing like this, who knows? The Jets could be a dark horse in the AFC. Could. Keyword. So I can hear Fletcher now saying, you got them way too high. No, I don't. Number 2 is where they should be. You have them way too low at number 10, as far as I'm concerned. So that's it. Number 2, like it or not, it's the New York Jets. So we're at number 1 now. We already know who number 1 is. So Michael Fletcher, do the honors.
All right. First off, let me clarify something really quick. My number 2, because I don't think I ever got a chance to do my number 2, was Green Bay, but that's fine. Whatever. But my number 1 is the reigning defending Super Bowl champion, the New England Patriots. No doubt about it. I think this is going to be the only agreement for tonight, but it is what it is. But I think the Patriots have earned the right to be number 1. Offensively, Brady looks like Brady. Gronk looks like Gronk. Edelman looks like Edelman. Dion Lewis has been a breath of fresh air and is now a fantasy darling. If you haven't gotten him, scoop him up now. But the one problem that New England has had that, nothing new, the defense. They give up a lot of yardage. They give up a good chunk of yards games, and they have given up a few big chunks especially against Pittsburgh. They did the running game. They got lit up, and then again they got lit up again rushing wise in the last game as they faced off with when they went up and faced off with Buffalo. So I mean, at the end of the day, yes, New England is truly number one, and they deserve it. But as at the end of the day, they got to get better in certain areas if they want to be a legitimate contender to be once again Super Bowl champions. But other than that, no arguments here. New England's number one. Anthony, we know who your number one is. Just give us the reason. Give us your reasons why they are.
Yes, Michael Fletcher. It is the New England Patriots at number one. I think of it as like college football. Because they won it all last year, so they should automatically be number one going into the season. And they beat Pittsburgh, so that's why they were number one last week and number one again this week with their win against Buffalo. But to agree to disagree, Fletch. I mean, yes, I agree with you. New England does give up a lot of yards. I mean, they gave up 300. They allowed 349 yards to Buffalo last week. But here's the thing. You know what the defense did? They forced not only did they force 3 turnovers, which I believe were all interceptions of Tyrod Taylor, but they also sacked them 8 times. That's right, 8 times. New England had 8 sacks. Unbelievable. Tom Brady, 466 yards, 3 TDs, no picks. Taylor had they had all 3 picks of Tyrod Taylor. Lewis had 40 yards and a touchdown in the win. Gronk, 113 yards and a touchdown. Edelman, 97 yards and 2 scores in the win. Gostkowski was perfect kicking the ball. And Chandler Jones alone had 3 sacks of Tyrod Taylor. Jamie Collins had 2.5 sacks. Rob Ninkovich and Alan Branch had 1 sack apiece, and then Dante Hightower with a measly half sack. But this is far and away the best team in the NFL right now. I mean, and as far as I'm concerned, as of right now, I think they're the team to beat right now. I mean, with the way they're playing right now, and considering they got Jacksonville coming in, who knows what they're going to do to them later today. So that's pretty much all there is to say about it. So Brady's going to go off. Gronk's going to go off. Edelman's going to go off. The defense is going to feast on Bortles and Mason. So that's pretty much it. And the Tom Brady revenge tour will continue against the Jacksonville Jaguars tomorrow afternoon. So that's it. The New England Patriots are your number one team in this week's Strictly Sports NFL Saturday Power Rankings. So that's going to put the bow on this edition of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. We're not going to do shout-outs because we only do that on Monday, and we only do that on Monday for the Wrestling Forum and Friday for College Football Friday because, it's our traditional Friday show. So unfortunately, Michael Bullock could not be with us tonight. I never heard back from him, so it is what it is. But I'm sure he'll be back. I'm fully sure he'll be back with us on Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, as will Michael Fletcher, as we continue on the road to Hell in a Cell. And I came before I wrap up. I just want to share something with you folks. I came across a dirt sheet saying that WWE is in major panic mode after the abysmal ratings that this past Monday Night's Raw posted. So, and yes, Vince McMahon has put the fear of God, if you will, into the creative teams. So, you better believe the creative team is scrambling big time to come up with a big time show come Monday night in Buffalo at the First Niagara Center. So, definitely will be very interesting. And who knows, could we have a cash in of Sheamus and Money in the Bank? I even came across a dirt sheet saying that he could be cashing in sooner than we think. So definitely keep an eye out for Raw Monday night. So that's all there is to say about that. So that's our next show, of course. Our next show will be Monday night for the Wrestling Forum. Of course, don't forget, Michael Fletcher will be doing his Dolphin recap video, and I'm actually thinking about joining him, considering it is a Buffalo-Miami showdown. So we'll have to hammer out those details. But Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, and then, of course, Friday, Strictly Sports College Football Friday. 3 headline games, as you all know. Notre Dame against Clemson, Alabama against Georgia, and Arizona against Stanford. So keep an eye out for those games. So, and then next Saturday for NFL Saturdays. So that'll put the bow on this edition of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. So until tomorrow night, with Michael Fletcher's Miami Dolphins Buffalo Bills recap, which I'm actually thinking about joining him for, and Monday night for the Wrestling Forum. It is Anthony Floyer here for Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, Michael Bullock and Derek Pereira saying, the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Have a great Sunday, everybody. Enjoy all the NFL action. And until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, you've been watching 50 Sports NFL Saturday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube.com. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. And for now, Anthony Floyo. So long.